Good afternoon, good morning to some of you. Good late afternoon to some of you joining us from overseas. My name is John Carroll. I'm the CEO and founder of the Service Council. Welcome to today's inService podcast series event. Today's discussion is built around operationalizing research, a practical path to transformation. And I am joined by my new colleague, newly appointed VP of Research and Advisory, Gerardo Pelayo. Gerardo, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining the organization and joining me in today's discussion.
Thank you, John. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share, get introduced to the community. Really looking forward to that.
Outstanding. So a little bit of ground rules before we jump in. We like to keep this as interactive as possible. If you're listening on LinkedIn, hello, we see you. And we welcome you to comment and submit questions, get clarity on some of Gerardo's viewpoints, but also some of our plans. We're going to be unveiling some of our future plans, which I think comes with a lot of excitement. So, we've been on a journey now as an organization for, 13 years. Gerardo's onboarding is really exciting. We've been growing double digit for the last 5+ years. Year over year, double digit growth, significant double digit growth. And, some days it feels like the doors are falling off of it when we're trying to keep the plane going down the runway. And then other times feels like we've got it all together. And with Gerardo's onboarding, man, does it feel good. I feel like we are more prepared to execute on this growth opportunity, and just really excited for what he adds to the mix and the evolution that will happen to our research. Again, just reframing today's discussion from a ground rules perspective, try to make this interactive. If you have questions, comments, reactions, please feel free to submit those. If you'd like to revisit this podcast and share it with colleagues, it will be available for download. You can get it at our website or whatever podcast channel you're on, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of the good things. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Gerardo, of course, I know you. The community is getting to know you. A lot of organizations have had the opportunity to dive in with you and get to know you. But for those that haven't, could you introduce yourself, maybe where you're from, what's your academic background? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So Gerardo Pelayo, as you can guess from the name, I'm from the deep south, meaning from Mexico. I grew up in Guadalajara, and really, I started out as a process-centric, problem-solving kind of guy, industrial and systems engineering. And from my point of view, I've been doing that ever since. I still do. It's just with a wider set of scope, wider set of tools. So what now seems like a life ago, I went and did a Ph.D. in logistics and supply chain management, a joint program between MIT and Cambridge and University of Zaragoza. So very interesting experience interacting with people from all around the world, different backgrounds. And one thing I did notice while I was there was the drive to connect what's possible and all the research and all the questions that I wasn't even aware were being asked that already had an answer for, which is very exciting. And connecting that to a more applicable setting. So after graduating from that, I came back to the U.S. I've been here for over a decade, playing a variety of roles in operations, in the solutions side, pre-sales, kind of like discovery, understanding where these things fit and come together, and most of it in the service value chain. And that's really what led me over here to the Service Council, to try and leverage the experience that I've had across these industries in very interesting organizations, and be able to interact, share, elevate the conversations within the community.
Well, thank you for that. We're so interested. We're so happy to have you. We're so interested in your background and how it applies to your new role, which is really exciting. And, as I looked at your career path, as we were going through the mutual vetting process prior to your onboarding, it seems like you've always kind of been at that intersection of technical and functional roadmaps. It seems to be steeped in that You talk about what's possible and practical, and then how to actually action upon that. How do you operationalize and transform accordingly? Can you tell us a little bit more? Can we double click on that aspect of your background in terms of the how to? There's an element here of how, not just what, isn't there?
Hmm. Yeah, there is, and it's interesting. Must have been over 5 years ago. I remember this article in MIT Sloan, and they were talking about data translators when all this hype about how to leverage data started coming up, and it's a term that hasn't picked up as much as I would like. But the idea there was saying there's a lot of skill sets that are needed when analyzing data, when preparing the data, when learning about the different technologies. And there's a significant number of courses and a lot of professionals that are very good at that. And then there's the operations, the people that are on the ground, the ones that are running and troubleshooting and firefighting and advancing the practice all the time. And there tends to be sometimes a lack of patience between these two groups. The technical side always wants more context, wants more volume, um, and the operations side requires a more immediate solution. Right? It's great to have these philosophical conversations, but I have a problem today, and there seems for all the investment that there is around technology, around team building, and leveraging these skills. I think the part about building the bridges, connecting these two worlds, these two ivory towers, if you will, that's been a component that's been underserved, and so building that connection is a lot of of where my passion lies, of allowing the different skill sets to connect, making sure that we're driving the conversations that are important, not only that are right, but also the ones that have impact. That the different teams understand each other's goals, and it it has been also rewarding to see the results of when those collaborations happen. That's when we start to see scalability of some of these solutions, more sustained results.
It's interesting. I read a really great article from a longtime colleague and friend, Bruce Temkin from Forrester, around complexity versus simplicity and embracing simplicity versus complexity and breaking through the scar tissue of an organization's complexity. The multiple transformations and changes that have happened over a period of decades can cause scar tissue, and how do you break through that? And I think that we'll probably dive into that as we go through
Hmm.
today's discussion. I'd like to get your viewpoint on that at some point. But one of the things that I was, hoping to sort of tap into with you today is around the common pitfalls of either success modeling or, those pitfall scenarios that you want to avoid in these change management processes, right? You said you've got these two isolated towers, if you will, of,
Hmm.
the change management process. How does an organization change successfully? What are the successful criteria? And what are those things that they might want to consider avoiding? What are your observations over the years?
Yep. So the first thing is avoiding what I sometimes call is the right answer to the wrong question. Uh, the I see a lot of implementations um, around that technological tool, around lately AI, ML related
Yeah.
aspects. Um, that it's not that the solution is wrong, that the model doesn't work. It is that it's not applied in the right setting, or there's just not enough return to justify all the effort that it
Yeah.
requires. So just because something is possible doesn't mean that it's the right solution for you. And
Yep.
being able to take a step back, and we've all heard that digital transformation is a journey, but sometimes we don't really question what that journey means, and that means choosing what's the best path, and walking before running, and making sure that you're moving in the right direction. So all of these things that appear basic end up having a significant impact on winning versus losing. Another observation is that when we talk about integration, I feel that it can be tackled with a bit of a myopic perspective. When we use the term integration, most people associate it with technological integration and how the systems, the tools are going to connect to one another. And we don't pay enough attention to how those tools will also connect to the processes, whether it's connecting to the existing processes or redesigning the processes that you want to apply with those tools. And obviously, the adoption piece. How are you going to introduce those new capabilities, prepare the people to leverage them? Just because capability is there doesn't mean that that the users are going to be utilizing it and utilizing it well. So unless these things come together, we're gonna end up with more investments than the returns that they yield. And the last thing that I would call out is change. Change management is painful sometimes, right? There's friction along the way for sure, and that could lead to partial shifts that create discrepancies. And what I mean by that is when we redesign a process, when we change the expectations on how customer experience should be the main driver, for example, but we don't
Yeah.
change the incentives that we're providing to the team in order to align with that, then then we create this dissonance in the process, and we got to be aware that the processes that are in place, the tools that are there to support those processes, the incentives and the KPIs that are used to control and to drive behavior, they're all moving in the same direction. If we stay with a mix of old and new, there's more chances of creating confusion than creating sustained change.
Absolutely. I appreciate all those viewpoints, and really excited to dig in with organizations that are in the middle of some painful change management processes to share some of those reflection points as we go and start to engage deeper with our members. Let's take the conversation to an area that I think is really interesting, which is your onboarding kind of witnesses an evolution point in terms of the Service Council's research approach, right? Both our methodology, but also our coverage, our plans, all of the above. Can you talk a little bit about how it's going to be structured moving forward? What are you intend to do in terms of evolving our current approach?
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously that's very close to my heart. So first, let me offer a baseline of the things that are currently in place and that we're keeping, which is this healthy mix of getting quantitative uh, inputs. We do that through surveys. We through the participation of the members and secondary research. But then being able to apply context to those quantitative results so that we can validate them, that we can shape, that we can slice and dice the insights in a way that first off makes sense, and second, and that's where a lot of the focus going forward is going to be, slicing and dicing them in a way that is actionable. So the the drives for someone in medical devices are going to be different from someone in high tech to someone in industrial assets, and getting to that level of specificity by aggregating the results and then being able um, to apply them with the right considerations for each subset. That's one of the major things. And then from a theme perspective, we we are evolving the conversation to, um, I I would argue it's the next logical question. There is some level of agreement that on the what's. What are the things that we should be talking about? What are the things that are important that could potentially help organizations? And we will be taking the conversation onto how do we do it? Why uh, are we choosing one lever over another? At what point in the i- in the strategy conversation should we bring up this augmentation of technologies, this change management? So just I go back to the piece of just because something is possible doesn't make it right. Uh, Getting into the details of the when, the why, and the how we're going to do it, that's a big focus of the research going forward. And then doing a little bit of that how internally, it's the communication of how we want to get that research, make it consumable for our community. So we're also doing some adjustments in that, so that prior to releasing the surveys, and we're going to start that with our next survey and remote support. We're going to be providing a summary of the findings that we have had in previous iterations. We keeping up with the times. We're always looking into, do we need to make adjustments to to add some questions, some topics, etc. To the survey. So we're going to explain a rationale of what's changing and why we're doing it, and we will be keeping the hypothesis to ourselves so that we don't bias the results. But as we release um, this surveys, then we're also going to be presenting the outputs in the same way that we've done before, both through interactions like this one on video, where we hopefully have the participation of the audience, and through more structured reports that can be leveraged for those that prefer the reading and the looking at charts in their own time.
Outstanding. It comes with so much excitement. I think, for our listening audience, just to kind of double click on the research methodology. Over the last decade, we've done 100 plus benchmark surveys. Each survey is typically 25 to 35 questions in length. We get normally anywhere from 100 to several hundred responses on our leadership-oriented surveys. One survey has become quite popular, the Voice of the Field Service Engineer, where we get 3,000 survey respondents on an annual basis, which is really rich data and always a fun exercise. We then cut the data into a maturity class framework. So we look at top 20% performers are best in class. We look at the middle being average performance, and we look at the low performers being that. So the middle is 50%, and then the bottom is the 30%. And then we start to frame out what are the commonalities of each class. Are they deploying particular technologies? Do they have leadership and people strategies that are unique? Do they have information architecture that's unique from other classes? And so we start to look at people, process, technology, data, and frame out what are the common characteristics of that class of performance. And we have taken a persona-driven approach. So if you look at our research practice, we start with the service executive, the leader, and we look at leadership and strategy. And then we go across the service value chain and we look at field service, data and intelligence, digital transformation and technology, workforce and talent. We look at supply chain. We look at commercial services, so go to market. And so each one of these research tracks or practices has its own body of work and its own state of the market survey that we conduct annually. Moving forward, we're going to take and frame it as not just what, but how. I think that's the exciting part of Gerardo's onboarding is, oftentimes we hear a lot of commiserating about the pain, or we hear a lot of salivating about the opportunity. And it's always, wow, this is great and this is cool. And wow, we got to get there. Or, gosh, we're struggling with talent. The talent crisis is killing us. So we've heard that ad nauseum, right? So now we have to talk about how do we solve these issues, or how do we embrace these opportunities. And so there's going to be a lens of our research moving forward that's much more maturity framework oriented. What are the maturity steps that you can take in terms of solving some of these problems or embracing some of these opportunities? So I'm really excited for Gerardo to start to frame a different lens of research around the how, and some of the practical approaches in terms of frameworks for our organizations, our members to consider implementing. Um, Gerardo, you kind of dripped a couple of topics that we plan to get into. Remote support, I heard. What other topics are we considering moving forward that are unique from our previous coverage?
So within remote support, there's a second click there, which replicating the I'm gonna call it the success, because it is of the voice of the field service engineer. I think that's a very insightful report, a lot of participation. Um, it's having a parallel voice on this other persona, which is the voice of the call center agent. As we see um, this heavy trend towards shifting left, and it's been existing for a couple of years now. I think there's more tools to achieve that now. So the role of that call center agent, the complexity and the skills that these call center agents need to have, which are not just technical skills, but a lot of people skills. And we go back to the incentives. That's something that we really want to understand at the source, not just from a leadership perspective, but from the people on the job. Um, a couple of the other topics that have been touched, but we're going to be diving into more aggressively, is understanding the customer journey, and uh, one, why it's important, and how should we think about this um, in our own industry. So providing some guidelines to get started, but then we're going to be uh, putting some more prescriptive uh, uh, papers around by vertical. So again, we go back to the applicability, to the more case study like nature of the research, and and then we're going to be releasing a series. The last two things: one, around the right fitting the technology. So understanding who are the players that can become part of the solution. What are the capabilities that are being uh, developed, that are more or less mature within the industry, so that people can have an informed conversation around what are the problems, what can we do, what will it take to get there. And what I was saving for last is all of this. It has to come from a logical strategy perspective, and having a maturity framework. That is something that so far I believe is lacking in the industry. Having a way to understand, are we doing well, are we not, and what does well really mean? Uh, how how do I go beyond a number, and truly get to identifying my gaps relative to the industry, number one. And second, not everybody needs to be the most mature, the most sophisticated organization at every little thing. Uh, so understanding where I am, and understanding where I need to be in the short and middle term, that's a lot of what we'll be doing through, and perhaps we'll have time to talk about it through a new product that we're working on, which is a service index.
Yeah, we'll definitely going to circle back to that one. That's a big unveiling, and something that I think our audience will be interested in hearing about. We'll actually share some visuals that Gerardo will lead us through a quick discussion on what the service index intends to be. Really excited about those future topics. You know, we talk about a persona-driven approach to our research coverage, and the customer persona is one that we haven't delved into enough. We've done some research around customer journey mapping, and we've done some research around customer sentiment analysis. And I'm just really interested in hearing, you know, moving forward, the whole, skate to where the puck is concept. What is the future customer driving in terms of the importance of that service relationship? Why and what are the expectations, and how can you meet them? And we're hearing a lot about adaptive customer journeys where instead of
Hmm.
controlled customer journeys. And I look forward to diving into that one with you. That's going to be a fun one, and really excited about it. And that topic of remote support is really critical. You know, there's a shift left orientation, getting closer to the customer. How can we dispatch less, or how can we dispatch more accurately when we have to? And so the customer journey starting in that remote experience is so critical. So I'm really excited about deepening our coverage around remote support. I think it's just a really pertinent topic. Let's get into your first research project, which is currently in market, the annual State of the Service Supply Chain Benchmark Report. I think we just crossed a barrier of enough respondents where we can start to get some directional trends. How Tell us a little bit about the survey. What has it been? How did you evolve it even subtly in your first 30 days here? Because you did make some changes. And what are
Hmm.
the early returns on the findings?
Yeah, sure. So previous year, especially the last year, one of the observations was there's this lens towards efficiency, but there's also sometimes a repetition of what the problems were, and this commiseration of what's hurting us. And I think yep. Sorry, I was getting some background noise on my end. So uh, from there, we wanted to be more intentional on understanding why we're seeing these challenges, and if we have the same problems year after year, then it means that the how is not really understood. So we wanted to challenge that um, to push the respondents to think about these questions. And the way we're
Yep.
doing it, and responses are interesting, is, for example, we were asking, where do you spend most of your time? On Mostly on leading indicators, mostly on lagging indicators, and close to 80% of respondents spend most of their time on lagging. And then if it's not mostly lagging, it's about 50-50. Uh,
Yeah.
Almost nobody is looking mostly at leading indicators, and that by definition that makes planning harder to execute, right? And
Yep.
it drives us into a more firefighting type of culture, which complicates systematic improvements. So that there we already have part of the explanation and a reasoning for the direction in which we want to move the changes. One of the things that on the questions that we didn't change that was interesting is the results on the KPIs that the practice is focusing on, and revenue from service parts specifically has jumped to the top three, which to me it's very interesting. It starts to align with that shift of service was a cost plus, and then it's a driver for customer experience, and now it's really internalizing the fact that it's an opportunity for the business as a whole, uh, for the customer reputation, for efficiencies, and for driving growth. Why not? And seeing that mix of KPIs that include a customer element to it, but that also include that business continuity part. I believe that's one of the healthy trends that we're seeing. And the last thing that I'll call out is, as we were asking the results on the KPIs that people are observing, the numbers can be good or bad relative to what your specific business is and the nature of whether it's a slow moving or fast moving in your inventory turns, for example. So we added questions around whatever your fill rate is that a good thing or a bad thing relative to your objectives? Were you expecting inventory turns to be faster, uh, or they're going maybe too fast, and that could be a problem because it could lead to backlogs? And while the bulk of the answers are on what we would expect of, well, yeah, we're close to our targets, and we wanna increase the number. Um, I have liked that we're seeing somewhere between 15 and 25%. We're asking this this concept in three of the KPIs. We see a reflection of, well, we're doing way better on this metric than we were targeting, and that's a problem because it means, in other words, we're overspending, we're over allocating resources, and we're probably not, these are resources that we could be putting elsewhere in an area that is suffering. So that is the idea, to collect data that allows us to have the prescriptive conversation of, if what are the KPIs that I really need to have? Do I need to rethink the way in which I'm managing my business? Do I need to rethink the investments that I need to plan for next year? Is it more of a people problem? Is it more of a technology problem? So that's really where we want to go, and the results are showing the some good inputs in order to have that informed conversation.
Absolutely, that's fascinating. I look forward to seeing the full summary results. We're going to do a webinar, I think, upcoming, where we actually go through the full summary analysis, and certainly looking forward to seeing how those come to light, and just taking a deeper dive on the data. So we'll park there on the supply chain topic. Let's talk about what you've learned. I can't believe it's been less than 30 days that you've been on board. That is like the most shocking stat of the day, by the way. Um, Tell us a little bit about what you've learned. You've had the opportunity to dive in with not only the team, but our members, our partners. What are some of the common things you're hearing? Tell us a little bit about your observations.
Yeah, so it's been it has been like drinking from a fire hose, and but in a good way, um, and that is because I see an alignment, first off, between the reason, the motivation of what brought me here to Service Council, this idea of how, and the questions and the level of engagement that the members have. So both on direct interactions with myself and the team, and in conversations between members that I've been able to be part of, I see questions like, um, are you also seeing this? Uh, I select um, I decided to go on a journey of automation, of applying machine learning, and I want to learn what you learned, especially since uh, leveraging the scope of our memberships, we can have those conversations between people that are not competitors. All right, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of willingness to share. Um, there's the the ability to share knowledge that is useful. It's not just let's get together for an hour and have a chat, but there's really valuable on the ground, hands-on conversations taking place. And this creates a snowball effect, because the conversations that I'm hearing, that guides our research. The questions that keep emerging, that guides, okay, what answers do we want to continue to think about, and do we want to socialize more with the community, and the stories, whether they're horror stories and of, oh, I wish I would have known this, and not do that, but also the success stories of what allowed you to get there this time, what allowed you to move faster, what allowed you to get the buy-in, what are the questions that you were asking at the front end, and how did you continue to manage that. So it's the frequency and the relevance of the conversations that I'm seeing. It's really refreshing, to be honest. It's a very exciting community to be a part of, and and I couldn't be happier. I'll be blunt.
Well, we couldn't either. And, I think, for our listening audience, Gerardo, the Service Council, this is kind of invisible to the market, but something we do every day. And that is when we are advising our members on trends, analysis, or listening to their business symptoms and then coming back with a set of recommendations, there are some times when we don't have the answer, believe it or not. And we then use and utilize the extensive experience of our community, our members, as a resource for other members. So it is not atypical for us to put one member in touch with another member or a set of members for a huddle, where we do a sort of information sharing session together. We proctor that discussion, and oftentimes have to provoke thought inside the discussion as well. And it's just a real fun experience to sit on the sidelines and or steer the discussion and really get involved in it. And Gerardo's had the opportunity to dive in on a couple critical member calls that were like really wow calls. I got to be real with you, around remote support experience. So, and I think it is a testament to our community. We live and die by our community. I think our community is the most qualitative audience of service executives, but there's also an element of humanity in this community that I love so dearly. A willingness to dive in and help others. It's just awesome. It really is the power of this platform, and I'm glad you had the opportunity to dive in with members on some of those member to member benchmarking discussions, because
Hmm.
those can be fun. Those can be fun and perplexing at times. The other thing, and a call to action for the other part of our member segment, our technology partners, Gerardo's on a mission to educate and immerse himself in knowledge about your solutions. And so there is an intention here for Gerardo to have a semi-annual briefing with all of our technology providers that are out there. And that doesn't mean you have to be a partner of the Service Council. If there's no monetary relationship, that doesn't matter to us. It is our responsibility to be knowledgeable about the solutions that are empowering and enabling service businesses. So if you have something critical and interesting you're bringing to market, we want to learn about it. And Gerardo's on a mission to brief with you on a regular cadence. So call to action for those listening. Gerardo is ready, willing, and able to listen and learn, and take that and enact that into our ongoing member discussions as we go. So thank you for taking action on that.
Absolutely,
Gerardo,
and I'll emphasize.
yeah, please. Yeah.
Sorry, just uh, emphasizing that it's a never-ending mission, because that's the only way to have informed conversations, to stay current. So we're always having our ear to the ground on what I said at the beginning: the possibilities, and the problems, or the opportunities. And the only way in which we can make a useful bridge, uh, a bridge that stays current, is by talking to both sides, and then distilling that information, channeling it in a way that makes sense. I'm not just sitting and waiting. So we do some of that research proactively, but as John said, uh, always very willing and excited to put my geeky hat on get deep into the solutions, the what's next, the what's possible aspect of it as well.
Gerardo, you unveiled something that's coming to market soon, in time for our symposium this year. Is the intention? Can you maybe share some more details on this concept of the service index, what it is, what it intends to be, and maybe we have some slides to help aid with that.
Yes, yes, and here we go. Thank you. So the service index, the motivation is really filling this gap of providing a framework that can help us determine, are we where are we relative to the industry's advancements and ability to leverage this the these advancements towards our performance. And there's uh, there's not a lack of KPIs out there, but I would argue there's a gap in how these KPIs come together as a whole. And the 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 lens that we're putting to this is based around the experiences. We know it's the service industry is much less transactional than it was years ago, and it's about how the experience is perceived by the different personas, not just the end user. So we're going to be looking at this through three main pillars, which is the customer experience. Everybody's going to be familiar with this already, um, but also giving the same importance to the employee experience, right? This this is the team that enables that customer experience to happen. And unless we nourish, unless we identify, unless we provide them with the right resources, the right incentives, feedback loops, etc., it's going to be very hard to have a sustainable customer experience. And the last piece is, we were talking, that the business experience, and this is a bit of a fussy term, perhaps, but we're thinking about this from a business continuity perspective. In some organizations, it's going to be the cost management. It could be revenue and profits. It could be that it's just about fulfilling internal SLAs and expectations, right? But it's how to achieve the business nature of it, um, while looking at the customer and the employee. We're measuring, and I think there's a next slide there of how we're breaking down um, the measurements and needs from a foundational perspective, both of the intelligence that I have. There's a lot of data. Really, what intelligence do we have, and what resources do we have to execute? Then the operational aspect of it. It's what am I doing with that intelligence, that data translation, and how do I not only have the processes, but how am I running these processes on a day-to-day basis? And as the end point, it's this outcome achievement. It's if we play well and have our attacking, and if I were using a football metaphor, if we have a lot of yards but never score a touchdown, then that's not going to be enough. So for each of the three experiences, we're providing a metric along these levels. And the way we organize them like this is that de- depending on where we have a low number, the logical question is going to be, okay, well, what next? How, if I'm a one, do I need to be a three? And if so, where do I need to invest? So they're organized in a way that leads into the type of investments that would be required. And we have a maturity scale that goes from the most anecdotal, I think I have this experience, gut feel type of situation, to progressively having more structure, more connection, more reliability and trust in the data, to the point of getting this circular stage of a closed loop. between the data, and that drives this ongoing or continuous improvement in the organization. So we're going to be rolling this out gradually over the next couple of months, planning for the big unveiling during our symposium in September. But as we're in the early stages of maturing this, we wanted to give you a sneak peek into what we're thinking and why we're bringing this to market.
Outstanding. And we had a question from one of our listening and participating audience members around the challenge of building that bridge that you're talking about. What's practical, what's possible, and the how element. And is the disconnect the translating of that scholarly perspective into layman's terms? Is that a challenge that you see common with organizations, that it's too challenging of data that is critical to the journey, and like there's a way to simplify the change management process and take it down to layman's terms that are more simpler to digest organizationally, instead of just at a leadership perspective? Is that something that you see?
Absolutely, and that's one of the elements for sure.
Yeah.
We and you referenced that at the beginning, John, the art of simplifying. Sometimes we complexity gets confused with better, and it's usually the other way around. We're looking for the simplest way to achieve the right outcome. But the other things, simplicity gets into the communication aspect. There's a cultural element to it of sometimes we're getting too defensive around the roles. So the data scientist and technical people might have less of an appreciation or feel threatened of, well, you're attacking my solution, you're attacking me. Or the business is saying, you're attacking my processes, you're attacking me. And we making the teams comfortable to share, to expose themselves to an extent, in order to look for a new way, a new collaborative path. That is something important. Unless that safety blanket is there, it's going to be very hard. There's an ego element of getting off your high horse, and it can happen in both. And the last piece is the technical capability. There's not enough talent development, I would say, to train people to work in the seams, to have enough of a technical understanding that is not just the willingness and the simplifying, but that somebody that can be respected by both teams because they understand the operations, because they understand the technical nuance, and that are willing to listen and drive a productive conversation. That is a role that as an industry we need to pay more attention to.
I think those are great points. They're very interesting response. And to our participating audience member that submitted the question, we look forward to engaging with you directly to maybe build on the conversation. Hey, Gerardo, let's talk about this year being your first experience attending the Smarter Services Symposium. And you're not just attending, you're actually co-managing the editorial build out of the agenda this year. So tell us a little bit about where we are with this year's event theme, confirmed speakers, how are the efforts going, and what are some of the topics that kind of speak to you?
Yeah, so they continuing with the logical innovation concept that we've been exploring during this session. It's providing continuity to what works and what's good, but then how to take it to the next level. And that continuity is reflected in the personas that we're going to be including in the conversation this year. That last year, the feedback I wasn't there, but I've seen the videos, I've seen the comments, as I've engaged with some of the members as well. Have being able to give a voice to the different personas uh, uh, at the operational strategic level and throughout the value chain, very important, and we're continuing that. The the evolution lies in the content that we provide for those personas. And this year,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to lean very heavily on the how. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
for example, things like how do we not just talk about diversity in the organization, but how do we get benefits from diversity, and get those benefits published, communicated, and scaled. How do we take digital innovation and start to scale it, identify the right use cases, and choose where do we want to get our early wins, and what do we want to do after that. The talent crisis, it's there, it's not going to go away. So what do we do about it? That's really the lens that we're applying, and it's healthy as well that the the speakers on stage, eh, there's going to be new faces uh, to the group, which is new voices, and that is necessary. That well, the expertise of the people that have been there in the past cannot be challenged. It's impressive, to be honest. Um, it's also good to get a view from outside. Otherwise, we recycle our we run the risk of recycling our own ideas and staying in the silo. So hearing a little bit about how others are uh, tackling their day to day is going to be very useful. Bringing in some new industries, and I think the audience is going to really appreciate that as well.
Yeah, we're so excited for a couple of reasons. There's a common format that you're going to see on main stage, and that is collaborative keynote speeches. It's not going to be soloist necessarily throughout the entirety of the conference, which has been consistently where we've gone. We've either had solo performers or panels. This year, we're going to see a lot more collaborative keynotes, thinking about how cross-functionally organizations collaborate to achieve better results, whether that's IT and service, service and supply chain, or other functional aspects of the business, service and HR in terms of the workforce and talent, the career pathing opportunity to drive deeper engagement. There's a lot of fun things we're planning with respect to this year's symposium. And man, I got to tell you, like every year, it's both tiring and exhilarating in terms of the attraction of new speakers, some repeats and some new. And this year is like no shortage of like who's who. We've got brands such as Caterpillar. We've got Bell and Howell. We've got Philips Healthcare will be on main stage. We've got a number of other new brands that are coming into the mix now, Harley Davidson, among others. And we have a level of academia being brought into the picture more prominently. So Carnegie Mellon will be there. Brad Myers runs their HCI practice, their Human Capital Institute there, in terms of the connection between technology and human behavior. And he'll be leading us through a panel, which is really exciting. And we've got some best-selling authors on main stage yet again. So we will bring David Rogers. He's a Columbia Business School professor and international best-selling author. He's got 5 or 6 books. I think it might be 6. One of which is called The Digital Transformation Roadmap. He'll be giving an autographed copy to our guests on site. And we welcome back Ron Kaufman. Ron is a global phenom in the area of CX, cultivating cultures of care. humanity, love. And I'm so excited to welcome Ron back. He's been a friend for years, and his content is just outstanding. He'll not only be keynoting day 2, but he'll be emceeing the day. So the longest day of the event, we're going to keep the energy high with Ron. If you know Ron and love him like I do, you know that he brings the energy. So look forward to that. And really excited about how the agenda is shaping up. It really is setting up to be one of our best yet. So um, membership is available to enable your participation, and symposium attendance pass programs are out there public. So if you care to join us, we welcome you and your teams to come join us. And we've seen this trend where organizations are starting to treat our event as a cultivation of innovation and an offsite leadership team meeting. There's space at the hotel to gather your team and have a discussion right where you're gathering some innovation opportunities right over the course of the 3 days. So we welcome you to do that, and we're here to support you in terms of carving out space at the conference. It'll be at the JW Marriott, September 9th through the 11th. So we hope you hold your calendar and can join us. Gerardo, let's leave our listening audience with 2 things. I'm going to pepper you with 2 quick questions. One, what are there any other concepts we haven't reviewed that you plan to institute in your new role? And 2, tell us something about yourself personal, something passionate you're about, you have a passion, or something that's core to your values, or something you're looking forward to.
Yeah. So in terms of the outputs, I'll do a call out for a new blog series we've started on LinkedIn, which we're calling Insights from Inspiration from Outside, our IFO series. And the idea there is that as we all watch movies, have personal anecdotes, read an article, there's something that we really like, and I enjoy the mental exercise of how can I apply this in my day to day? How can I bring this into my professional life? So we're doing that. It's on the lighter note, but it builds on that idea of leveraging knowledge, leveraging things that work no matter where they come from, and wondering, what does it mean for me? What can I do with this, and hopefully get a better outcome? And so participation and feedback is very welcome on that. And about myself, I've always been a major soccer fan. I played always growing up. I go to the stadium every time I get a chance to go back to Mexico. So that's always been my passion. My body is not supporting my passion as well as it did. But yeah, something like 30 pounds ago, I was something more of a serious player. So
First of all, I love the concept of your new blog and content series. It's an outside in methodology, right? Outside in terms of innovation, and I love it. One of the big things our members love about our the diversity of our audience is exactly that you can learn uncommon best practice. Uncommon industries share common pains and pressures and opportunities, and so there's an opportunity to cross pollinate best practices. And I love this outside in approach that you're taking with the content series. And on your personal passion, I hear you on that 30 pounds ago. So maybe together we can get a service council pool going where we can get 30 pounds lighter and maybe get back on the soccer field. So we'll look forward to that.
sounds like a great idea.
He is Gerardo Pelayo. He's the new VP of Research and Advisory for the Service Council. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion. I am so excited about his onboarding to take forward the research methodologies that we have as an organization, and to delve into these change management opportunities with our members and clients across the globe. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion. If you have questions for Gerardo, he's ready to dive in with you one-to-one. And we'll see you on the next one. Gerardo, thanks for joining. This is your first. It was a good first out of the gate. So thanks for joining today's discussion.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for joining today.